and good morning. I am Anumita Sharma and I will be your host for this session. Tackling dynamic hybrid spaces is perhaps the most unexpected challenge that corporates have ever had to face. Not in a million years did we ever think we would grow close within walls, did we? But winning inclusive and positive workplaces are a mandate. So today we discuss with Mr. Vijayaraman Subramanian, Vice President and Managing Director at Verizon India, Maneesha, Garg, Partner and Head Forensic Sciences at KPMG in India, Apoorva, Aggarwal, Partner and Managing Principal at ZS Associates on re-orchestrating the organizational culture in a hybrid workplace. This panel will be moderated by Mr. Umasanker Kandaswamy, Senior Vice President, Sales and Relationships, founding team member at Avtar Group. With over 20 years of work experience in recruitment consulting, Umasanker is a prolific headhunter with over 3,500 closures in his career, comprising of top management, senior management, and reporting to board positions. Currently, he manages all India sales and relationships for the entire Avtar Group for more than 350 organizations across industries. Over to you, Mr. Umasanker.
Thank you so much, Anumita, for the lovely introduction. And very good morning to one and all. I'm excited and thrilled to moderate this wonderful panel today. So happy to see the 50-50 gender balance in our panel today. This is the vision of Avtar, and we would like to achieve this 50-50 gender balance at every level in the corporate Indian workplace very soon. I'm sure with intentional leaders like you, this will become a reality in the coming years. Happy to welcome Vijayaraman Subramanian, MD and country head of Verizon. Vijay has over 24 years of experience and plays a key role in spearheading the company as a strategic development center, an emerging innovation hub, and drive cutting-edge capabilities to boost technologies like 5G for Verizon. Our next panelist is Maneesha Garg, Partner and Head Forensic Services from KPMG. Maneesha has over 22 years of strong due diligence, finance, and accounting experience with KPMG in India, American Express, and Agilent Technologies. She has managed global account relationships, multicultural and dimensional teams, and built client relationships at executive level. We also have with us today Apoorva Aggarwal, Partner and Managing Principal at ZS Associates. With almost 2 decades of experience, she is the India lead for ZS Client Management, with a very passionate leader in helping women build successful careers, and is a part of ZS Global Women's Leadership Initiative. She has brought alternative thinking to many programs to help women at ZS grow professionally, and is a certified Lean Six Sigma Black Belt. Hearty welcome to each one of you. Thanks for being here to be part of Segue sessions on the 14th edition of our journey. Our topic today is re-orchestrating the organizational culture in a hybrid workplace. COVID introduced a new normal to the entire world and the way we approach work and life. We are looking at the ways we have changed our outlook towards life. We at Avtar has been communicating for many years through our research studies, articles, blog posts, videos, speaking in many forums about flexible working at the workplace. And here we had COVID, which helped every organization to understand the need of flexibility in no time. What are the challenges ahead for the leaders? How are they managing this new hybrid model of working? Let's segue into our discussion with this amazing panelist. To begin with, I would like to ask each one of you to describe your vision and strategic approach to DEI. Maneesha, would you want to go first?
Of course. Thank you so much, Vijay. Umasanker, sorry. Very glad to be on this panel, this team panel, privileged to be part of it. I think to understand how we have, how KPMG as a firm has a vision and purpose on the diversity, inclusion, and equity, I don't have to go very further than to go and look into the values that the firm stands for. And the values are integrity, excellence, courage, together for better. The first two, integrity and excellence, are basically the goals. The courage and together are basically the modus operandi to reach the outcome of being better. So for us as in KPMG, there is both a business as well as moral imperative that basically builds trust, and it compels us to stand up for whatever is right. And as you all know, don't have to say this again and again, but all statistics and surveys have time and again told us how teams that are diverse both in terms of their thought and structure have perhaps a better chance to be innovative and creative in solutioning. And therefore, I think the need to raise the bar for a professional firm like KPMG is even perhaps more, because as a services firm, people are our big capital. And in that sense, we need to ensure that all our efforts are driven to building a culture of inclusivity and equity without any form of discrimination or bias. Also, I think as a firm, we have taken a purposeful vision to be, like you said, a 50-50 gender ratio by 2025. And we want to focus on attracting and retaining and engaging with the underrepresented groups in the profession and building an environment where people can bring their whole selves to the workplace.
That's awesome. And really happy to know that you're aiming at 50-50 gender balance by 2025. Great. So Vijay, would you like to take the question?
Thank you, Umasanker. Thanks for having me today. It's a pleasure to be here. One of the, a topic that as a company we relate to a lot. Not only that, it's one of our core values, but as an individual, I personally believe in this subject. So thank you for having me here, and great to be in this panel with so many good, esteemed speakers. So personally, as an individual, I always believe that diversity is not even a choice; it's a way of life. And inclusion, I read somewhere, diversity is important because you are unique. When I say you, I as an individual, I'm unique. And inclusion is important because I matter to the world. So there's no way that two individuals or two things or two living beings, or for that matter anything, can be the same, but at the same time they have figured out how to coexist. It's just the biases that we build as we grow up, or the way we live our lives through our existence. We start building our own preferences and perceptions and learnings, which then create problems. Otherwise, in general, nature allows everybody to coexist. So that's my personal belief on diversity and inclusion. As an organization, we follow a core set of guiding principles at Verizon. We call that the credo. And our credo places diversity, equity, and inclusion at the front and center, at the core of the heart of the organization's being, of the organization's existence. So for us, it's very important that we support diversity for the same reasons that Maneesha brought up. Every individual is different. Every person that is different. Every individual has their own preferences and choices. Our customers are different. Our customers are unique. Each of them have, a unique way of doing things. Each of them are unique in their own personalities. And not only that, the amount of diversity and the diversity of thoughts and ideas and thoughts that come from having so many different people is very important, not only to navigate our market space, but also just to navigate the way into the future. So for us, it doesn't matter. We are gender neutral. We are gender agnostic as an organization. We don't believe in identifying individual as he, she, or whatever. It's up to them. They want to call it whatever they want to. We have a very strong pride movement in the organization. We support all types of orientations. In fact, we have even gone to the extent where we don't even ask people during our interview process as to, how they want to be addressed or whatnot. We just look at what they bring to the table for the company, what we need from them in the specific role that we're hiring for, and that's it. And that's what we look for. And over the last few years, we have made a lot of effort to make sure that our office space, our policies, our support system within the organization provides for these things. Whether it is sensitization, like I said in the beginning, it's all about how we are brought up or how we have learned through our life that we build certain biases in our mind. We follow a very strong, unconscious or unbiasing set of paradigms within the organization, which helps us move forward. I'll talk more about that in the other part of the section, but yes, this is what it is. It's a very, very important subject for us as an organization and for me personally as an individual as well. Thank you.
Excellent, Vijay. Thanks for the notes. I mean, I'm able to see that you touched upon all the main stakeholders in the organization and the internal external. Thanks. I will come back to you with a question, what you talked about. Apoorva.
Yeah, I know. I would again start with a thank you for inviting me and being part of this esteemed panel here. And anybody who knows ZS, okay, I think who's worked with us as an employee, as a client, any vendor partner as well, I think knows that ZS is known for its people and culture for over 35 years. Okay, there is a sense of pride that we take, as well as a sense of messaging that we get from our clients, a competition about this is the USP of the organization. Okay, of course, barring our solutions and innovations, etc. And I think the cornerstone of that has been our values. There are 3 values. One of them is treating people right. Okay, and you can't treat people right unless you have equitable action that is provided to all the diverse background of hires that we have, and they would not be feeling included in the organization and belong unless they feel as part of the organization. And as a result, that is the thinking that goes behind and has continued to be. And of course, as for the topic, the whole concept of we will have to preserve certain aspects of our culture so that DEI is important, but also evolve. Because the way hybrid is going to be and the flexible and connected model is going to be, I think we'll all have to think about what are the new ways in which people continue to find the linkages to this aspect of DEI and to the organization. Now, having said that, I think there are 3 important triangle pillars that the corners that I see for any individual to feel that, right? One is a self empowerment. I think we'll have to make choices that individual feel coached, trained, and guided to feel successful in the organization. Women included as part of the diversity for sure. I think the other one is our emphasis on the work ecosystem, and that's where all the guidelines and the policies and the smooth integration will come in. And I will also re-emphasize on the personal ecosystem or my life, and how do we keep on engaging with them to make the family feel proud of what the individual is achieving at office and integrating that, and much more important in the hybrid world. So I think that's definitely our strategy in the future to continue this.
Amazing thoughts. I'm able to see the inclusion aspects in every leader, and so happy. Let me jump on to the next question. This would be for Vijay. I said I will come back to you. You talked about more with respect to the entire ecosystem of talent. Can you please share, Vijay, your Verizon's vision for diversity, equity, and inclusion, specifically related to the advancement of women at workplace?
Thank you. No, that's a fair question. Thanks a lot. I think we have won quite a few awards in this space. Now that does not mean that we kind of stop what we have focused on. And the reason why we continue to put ourselves out there is not just to say that we are an inclusive and diverse organization, but it's also to reinforce to our own employee base that, listen, this is extremely important for us. So now, having said that as a context, as a corporation, it's, to what we just heard, a lot of these things have to be done deliberately, consciously.
Yeah.
And these are things that you do not let go of. It's similar to just your exercise routine or anything that you follow. These require deliberate actions. And as a corporation, we have embarked on a journey. We have put together a bunch of policies which make sure that we follow through on what we promise. And like I said, the guiding principles that we have as Credo, that we make sure that we align to our Credo all the time. Some of the examples, some of the policies that we have, of course, this is some are basic industry practices that you see, for example, gradual return to work for women who undergo life cycle events like maternity. Apart from that, we have a program called Wings program, which is basically to hire women back into the workforce after they have gone through a life cycle event. It could be relocation because they found a partner. It could be maternity break. It could be something else, and they just took a break for whatever reasons, and then we provide them an opportunity that they come back into the workforce. Now, apart from that, we also work very closely with partners. For example, Jobs for Her, as an example, where we specifically, have a milestone-based hiring policy where we tell them 50% of the slate for every candidate that we want to hire has to be women, which basically is our attempt to make sure that there is 50% opportunity provided to that group of population. And then what happens after that, of course, is a fair and opportunity which we follow, depends on how they fare. But we make sure that the slate for lateral hiring is 50%. Now, while that is for the lateral hiring from the market, what we do very consciously is that at the entry level in the organization, whether it is internship programs or our campus grad program, we make sure that we bring in 50% women, so that there's an equal base. One of the challenges in India typically is that you also have a problem with respect to availability of talent, specifically women in technology. So we as a company now are addressing a few areas, basic areas around that. So we have a very strong Women in Tech program that we are running, where we showcase our leaders, our technology leaders who are women, who are who have grown up the ranks in the organization. So we send them to universities and campuses to see if they can spurn a bit of encouragement and also thought among women to take technology or STEM education, as we call it, as a mainstream way of looking at their careers. Apart from that, we have a bunch of programs there's a program called Women of the World that we run. It's a global program across Verizon that we run, where we identify women who create a cohort network, work with each other, and then partner with each other and find sponsors. That's very important, to find sponsors and then take deliberate actions on their own careers. What we have observed is, as we bring in 50% women at the entry level, as we progress into the senior levels of the organization, there is a dip. And that dip is due to multiple reasons. Like I said, life cycle events, society that we live in, or even across the world. In general, what you observe is the woman actually takes, ends up compromising for whatever life cycle changes that happen with them or with their families. And one of the things that we have trying to do with the hybrid model of work is that now the world is open for us. You can work from anywhere you want. One of the challenges in India that we used to face was women would get married, move out of the organization because their spouses were somewhere else. With the hybrid mode of working, we believe that kind of sorts it out a little bit for us. And apart from that, we also have very strong leadership development program for women. We run an ERG group called the WAVE, which is basically Women at Verizon. And we very consciously run those programs on a monthly basis to provide women the opportunity to connect with each other. And not only that, we have a DEI council, the Diversity, Equity and Inclusion Council, which is sponsored by executives. And this is deliberately made sure that the sponsors are men leaders, male leaders. I am one of the sponsors. And one of the things that I do constantly is, at any point in time, I'm constantly mentoring 1 or 2 women leaders to come up and take a senior leadership role in the organization. And we do that consciously at all levels. So these are some of the programs that we run to grow women in the organization. Now, apart from that, like I said, you have biases. We all have it. We have all grown up with it. So as a corporation, we run a program called Unconscious Bias. It's a reinforcement learning. We continuously learn it throughout, at every frequent interval, so that people don't, I as an individual don't slip back into my own biases. After having gone through the training for a week or 2, I keep that in my mind and then I slip back. So we create a reinforcement model there and we keep educating them. And like I said, our interview processes are also been very clear. Our legal policies have been laid out very clearly to all the interviewers. So every interviewer at Verizon actually takes a training every 3 months to 6 months to reinforce to them that when you are interviewing a candidate, you are not supposed to ask a few things. I'll give you an example. There was a time in India where we would ask if a woman was pregnant and take a decision whether or not to hire her. This is decades-old problem of the society that we live in. We have made sure that as an organization, we don't get into such things. Like I said, the other thing is we don't want to know your orientation. We don't want to know what you do. All we want to know is the capability and the skill and the fitment to the role that you bring to the table. So we follow these principles very, very strongly. We also have a very vibrant ERG community for Pride. We have an ERG community for women who run a lot of ERG programs for us. Very, very vibrant community within the organization. One of the goals, though, is to try and see how we can increase women in leadership. At this point in time, we are proud to say that we have about 30-31% mix in our overall diversity ratio. We would definitely like to go beyond that. We would like to bring it to 50-50 sometime. We are trying very hard to do that. And hopefully we'll make it. And like I said, we're working with a lot of partners like yourself. And like I said, Jobs for Her, for example, as an example, there are others too, to see how we can bring in more women into the workforce. And that will be truly a true testament of what we want to do. And that will probably is something that we'll focus on and consciously, deliberately push towards, that goal. So those are some of the things that we do at Verizon. I can go on, but for the paucity of time, I'll give it back to you. And yeah.
Thanks, Vijay. I mean, I'm seeing, male ally new. I mean, you've been managing mentoring some of the women leaders, which is amazing. We talked about a lot of initiatives from Verizon, be it Wave or Women on, Women of the World, and a lot of things that you talked about. Happy to know. I think I asked the right question to you to bring out the best on what Verizon is currently doing in. Great. So thanks, Vijay, for that. And let's move on to Maneesha. I would like to ask you about the organizational cultures are essentially made of strategy, values, capabilities, which is behavior, attitude, and skill, and environment. How can leaders bring in alignment between strategy and culture in the workplace?
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Uma, for that question. I must say, Vijay, I've been taking notes. A lot of what you said is actually resonating so much with the organization, and I'm sure Apoorva will agree. We are all in the same boat, and we are learning from each other as we go along. You asked about the culture and the strategy alignment, Uma. I think we can safely say culture eats strategy for breakfast, right? And then one can have the best laid business plans fall flat if the leadership behavior and actions, it doesn't support the intent or the purpose. I think particularly for a firm like KPMG, a firm like ours, that has transitioned in the last, I think, 10 years from the big bastions of, audit and tax into consulting and advisory with a very large, I would say, a heterogeneous population of very diverse talent. In this transition, one of the first lessons that we have learned is that any initiative, including the well-meaning one of inclusion, diversity, and equity, cannot have a one-size-fits-all, right? So any journey of bringing an alignment between strategy and structure and culture has to begin with a very, very deep analysis of our current organizational structure. Any sort of organization that's going through this thought process has to look internally and then figure out through a very self-critical lens to see where are the weak links, what are the areas that need immediate attention, and it has to follow a customized intervention, which should normally then monitored for tangible outcomes in the spaces of perhaps what we are talking of today. Therefore, at least from a KPMG standpoint, our inclusive and diversity pie, if I may call it, is sprinkled with a very generous dose of agility, adaptability, and above all, joy. We take great pride in sort of running this program across the organization. And since I think IND initiative starts from the very top, the tone has to be right. Our first target group has been, the partners and the leadership team, which are Gen Xers like me. And I can tell you that we have all enthusiastically taken a reverse mentor from the very large group of millennials, just in order to build some sort of a bridge to get some cross-generational learnings and experiences. And even our development of the leadership program is now going to include an immersive intervention by external IND specialists, just to bring in an outside-in view, to ensure that we slowly but very certainly sort of make this not like just one topical event, but also a part of our thinking and our DNA. And of course, the millennials and the younger generation, they have their own resource group to ideate, network, and suggest the ways in which they can do better. And among many things, we recently, launched a mandatory IND training. We all know that a lot of good stuff that has come, for example, on POSH, etc., took place only when there was a mandatory regulatory environment, right, around those topics. So the idea is that we sort of take a step forward and not wait for something from a regulatory side to come along, but really start talking about this topic and making it live and practical and alive for our people. So that's something that we have done, and it was launched this International Women's Day with basically the sole objective of embedding the IDE culture into our sort of cultural fabric of the organization. So yeah, so short answer to your question, but
very nice to know what you're doing and the vision of leaders like you at KPMG. Kudos to you for the work that you're doing. Great. So let me ask Apoorva, what are some of the hybrid workplace related challenges that you are managing at ZS?
Interesting, Uma, you asked this because I'm sure everybody is facing it. It to be a cliche to say it's unprecedented. There was a level playing field where everybody is working from home, right? The level playing field has changed. And I think it is important to understand that when everybody is working remotely or everybody is in office, the challenges are different. But once we go into this hybrid model, it raises the complexity. It requires more focus, attention, planning, and the variability that comes in along with it, I think, is very important, right? I'd like to quote say what Maneesha said, I think, is the first challenge. I think we will have to understand that people's needs are varied and unique. Okay, as as all of us at ZSS, we are navigating how to, ensure that we have a good mix of people in office. We value the collaboration. So the way we've defined our future of work model is flexible and connected. We really value the collaboration, the connectedness, the brainstorming, the whiteboarding that we do in office. And hence we think the majority we would like people to spend in office, but we also really value the flexibility that we've all enjoyed, and we would want people to make these choices, right? But the choices that I make and you are very different, and they're vastly different situations. Somebody has childcare, aging parents, managing kids, online school, health issues, etc., right? Including our inertia to come to office itself. So I think, how do we navigate this situation where everybody is feeling heard, everybody feels that they have a choice, and yet with purpose, we are moving towards something that we have an objective towards, which is we would like people to see and come back together. So this level of managing the flexibility that we've got, along with the connectedness that we want to bring, right? I would also add in, I think, this, while during the pandemic, there was a lot of communication and connectivity through emails and through technology, I think linkages have been lost, right? When people come together, and that networking and the personal link that I've built with somebody I'm walking on the corridor, having a pantry conversation, or in the cafe, that 5-minute aha that I get, I think that has been lost. So we're actually thinking of what are the ways in which we can build that and not miss the bus when we start to open the office in the beginning, right? There is some FOMO can be created and probably help people to link. In fact, we are going to the way that we are an AI-enabled firm with a lot of tech solutions. Can we find some ways very interestingly on matching people who they normally don't connect to. Some rule-based algorithms can be created on in the new generation. They can use it in an app and see who all do they want to connect on a weekly or a monthly basis. So these are the kind of things that we are thinking about. Another one is what we recognize and and the promotions, etc. Of course, research shows that if there is somebody in front of us, we're likely to see the amount of work that they're doing or the kind of work they're doing. And if it's out of sight, out of mind. And I think that habit would also need to change a little and get more, accustomed to the fact that they're equally important and equally valued and equally feeling included. And hence what we celebrate, I think what the kind of things that we celebrate and the kind of things that we talk about, I think we'll have to be very cognizant of that. And I also will like to add that working women, of course, have been disproportionately impacted during the pandemic. And how do we make sure that they feel comfortable and and as organizations we create equity-based guidelines in the future that will understand the position they would be, because flexibility also means a lot of work at home at times, because sometimes we're seen as the primary caretaker, if I can say, but then how do we challenge that, and how do we continue to both coach them and the ecosystem that is provided to them? So according to me, these are some of the things that I think it'll be interesting to see how they roll up, and if we feel will face or continue to face right now as well.
Brilliant, Apoorva. Very happy to see the equity part of it, what you have concentrated, and also trying to make sure the entire employees get to network to each other. Amazing thoughts. So let's quickly move on to Vijay again. In the new evolving hybrid model of workplace that is evolving, how do you think this new setup will impact the overarching DEI goals and initiatives of organizations? How can leaders sustain the culture that they have been built in the hybrid work model, Vijay?
Thank you. That's a very good question. Important to discuss this. Kind of what Apoorva said is very important. That I was reading an article. I'm not able to put a finger on the exact metric there, but the pandemic actually has done a lot of damage to the women in the workforce. In fact, a lot of women actually have gone out of workforce during this last 2 years, which is actually a little disheartening to see, because it's important that you cannot keep 50% of the population out of equitable opportunities, in a country like ours, especially in India. And by the way, this is not just an Indian phenomenon, it's probably global, but in general, I'm just looking at, what I read recently. So that's the context. See, it's important that, as an organization, and we heard us say this also, that, it's very important that a lot of these things are deliberated at the boardroom level. These are something that you need to discuss. And, while we discuss a lot of other things related to our business, this is actually a very important aspect for us to keep in mind, that when we have the discussions at the senior leadership table, that we also table this as a very important topic on, okay, now, all this we did till 2019, up to 2020, when the pandemic hit, what are we going to do in the new normal, right? The new normal is obviously a hybrid way of working. Like I said, I'm in the office today. We have opened our offices for those who want to come in. What is exciting to see, though, is that the number of people showing up is increasing by the day, and we are at near normal levels, really, which is very heartening to see. Which basically means people want to come back. Now, but what is important for us is in the hybrid mode of working. And by the way, this is not just for women. It is at an overall level an inclusion challenge and problem to solve, is that when there are 20 people in the office and 5 of them are working from home from different parts of the country or different parts of the world, how you make sure that everybody feels included in a conversation. If it's a team meeting, for example, like the one that we're having right now, I could have a virtual team meeting, but 5 of them sitting here, and I as a leader could just be focusing on the 4 people next to me and not worried about the 2 who are joined on a video link. It's very important that as an organization, we follow through and make sure that everybody feels included. And that is something that we are running as in an organization. We are running some sensitization programs specifically for the hybrid environment. Now, I spoke about the Women of the World event, that program that we run. We actually had an event last Friday in our office, but we made sure that it was available to everybody who's not able to come to office as well. So it was done virtually, and we booked conference rooms in the office for those who were in the office. and then made sure that those who were virtually joined in actually were given time individually to speak their mind. So these are some of the things that you have to consciously do. Now, one thing I'll tell you about hybrid is it's also something that's very important for the workforce. People were craving for this flexibility. It is not that, this flexibility, when, if I remember going back into 2019, 2018, when, majority of the folks would come to office and work, at that time, people would crave for a few days here and there to be able to do their jobs from wherever they were working. So this flexibility is extremely important, right? So I think we are at a very sweet spot with respect to workforce, satisfaction from a point of view of providing them the flexibility. But then this also brings about challenges like I just mentioned about inclusion. So now the question is, there was a very important point that Apoorva spoke about, which is actually connecting in person. A lot of organizations, if you are, for example, in the sales teams or in business development aspects or human resources or any team, and I think what is lost is in us technologists that we believe that we can work from anywhere. The reality is that you can, if you're just writing a piece of code, but then you're not writing a piece of code in isolation. You're writing it for a customer, you're writing it for a driving experience, you're writing it for a lot of other reasons. And you have to come together from time to time to be able to hash out the problems, come together to do some whiteboarding, brainstorming, or even just build the rapport and relationships, because that is what eventually drives the business forward. And that is what the hybrid model provides each individual with, right? They are able to come into work. Now, specifically for women, and I agree with what she said about it has been hard, the 2 years in pandemic, because, in general, as a society, we expect a lot from our women, right? While especially a working woman for that matter, that, she has to take care of the household, yet she has to do work, and the work is not, we all know that it's never ending. And for a woman who's working, I think work is never ending, literally, domestically or in the professional life. So the challenge is that we have to make sure that we provide that opportunity for our women employees, the flexibility with the way they manage their lives. And that we are consciously trying to drive at all levels of the organization. We are sensitizing our supervisors, the people who are people leaders. At a very senior leadership level, we are sensitizing people that, listen, you need to understand that they're taking care of the demands of the household, and at the same time, they're taking care of the demands of the work. And we see that at managerial level, when women start taking leadership roles, that these demands increase because they have to manage a team, they have to manage the deliverables, they have to manage the business, and then they have to do the same at home. So what we're providing them is a lot of flexibility and letting them know, listen, if you're not able to come to work on a specific day because your team is coming, it's fine. Figure out how you want to deal with it, in your own ways. And not only that, all the programs that we run, the diversity programs that we run are now run virtually. And like I said, we make sure that we consciously park time for those who are joined on the video links to provide their inputs and provide the support. We also run a support group. It's very important to the point that I just mentioned that women also need a support group, a shoulder to lean on, an ear to talk to. So what we've created is we have created a support group where some of these women who are having these challenges at, a work front domestically, as well as, managing their household chores and house, home, that they're able to have a conversation with them. So we have shoot the air conversations, where we bring them together and just have a comfortable conversation with anybody you want to talk to about these things. So these are some of the things that we are doing. It's all, frankly speaking, a lot of this thing at this point in time are experiments that we're trying to make sure that we provide the right avenues for them to be successful in their career in the hybrid mode. But it's also very important that we continue to learn, go back, retrospect, and then fix anything that may need to be fixed. So we are in that mode right now, but yeah, we have a lot of programs just specifically catering to our hybrid workforce.
Thank you so much, Vijay, for that very detailed, analysis. Especially if you look at women, I mean, most of the men now understood how they are managing both, work, and they've literally seen what.
Hats off to them. Hats off to them for doing that. If anybody that can do that, it's probably a woman.
I would attribute their skills have been enhanced in the last 2 years Thanks to COVID. That's what I would say. That's a bit of pride that I always try and talk to all my women colleagues. Yeah, thanks for reiterating that, Vijay. Thanks so much for that. So I would like to ask, Apoorva, in your experience, how can leaders provide a sense of direction, strengthen alignment, and inspire commitment in teams while managing the hybrid workplace?
Yeah, well, good question. And I definitely feel voices more like Vijay, Maneesha, and others, especially male allies, if you're talking about gender equitable actions, I think go a long way, right? When they hear it from the fact that they're senior leaders who are doing this. So I think the first one that I do want to talk about is the empathy. I think we all wear our own lens in the way we see the world. And the unconscious bias that Vijay was talking about was exactly that, right? It's my own glasses that I wear. How can I see the world from another person's shoes or perspective and let go of my beliefs, because pandemic has made us actually live that in so many ways, right? So I think to make hybrid successful, leaders, the sensitization aspects that Vijay was talking about, I think building empathetic leadership is a training that we are running and been running for about a year or two at all levels, in fact, almost frontline managers as well, because the people they interact with are 1 year, 2 year in the workforce, and they actually help create, the culture as well. So it's not only about senior leaders, but I think anybody who has people leadership should go through some element of that. That also then leads to us living as role models and living it true to its sense, right? What it means of flexibility, and sharing your success stories and your challenges and dilemmas, right? You have late evening calls. We work in a global environment like many of us, and I have a call with a senior client or a senior stakeholder. How do I handle that? I have dinner to be served at that time, etc. So making this conversation and normalizing this conversation, I think, is also a very important part of that leader, and hence actually role modeling, saying you're not alone and we're all in this together and we're trying to figure it out. And I think it's always a constant struggle, but we can plan it a little better. We can think a little forward. We can make small changes in our lives, probably define boundaries, block calendars, some of the things that we can do individually, probably share with them as well. Okay. Of course, very strongly believe what gets measured also gets impacted. Okay. So as a result, as an organization, continue to evaluate how the flexible connected model is going. How are people able to get schedules? Are they able to manage? What are the kind of other enablers we can put in? I think that will go a long way as well. I had liked Maneesha's point, and I think we also have incorporated that in the way when we were developing our ZS flexible connected model is an advisory group. And this advisory group is not leaders, is actually the young generation, right? So we reached out to a bunch of random samples, some chosen, nominated them and talked to them, saying, this is the decision we are thinking, this is how we are communicating, right? Help us think through both of them, right? This is our reason for the objective of the decision. Is it landing well with this group? And then even when we communicate it. So I think that advisory group is very, very important. And then the last I would say is meeting with purpose, sure. Right? We will have to get out of our old habits. Oh, let's meet in office and do this together, right? Why do we need to meet with, whether it is a networking opportunity, whether it's a brainstorming, and I think we'll need to work together, maybe just connecting over Zoom, etc. So meeting, what is the objective of the purpose? Who all do we need to meet? What is the scale of the meeting? All of that has to be done with the meeting with purpose. And I think that is very important, Uma, as we look at our future working model to be successful.
Brilliant. We're getting a lot of questions. So I will ask one more question to Maneesha. How can the workplace be re-orchestrated for an inclusive hybrid workplace with a people-first culture?
Yeah, thanks, Uma, and apologies if I do cough in the middle, just having this bout. But I think we're all saying the same thing, but I think what COVID-19 has done has been a blessing of sorts as well for the ID agenda. And why I say that is because it has opened a lot of conversations and possibilities, right? So today, we know, for example, that agile hybrid working is viable model. I mean, it's not something that is something very different that we are talking about. We know that the employees are now demanding, a pizza size of life, with work being only one slice of it and not the center of our existence. So we relate to that sentiment. We know that now new markets and there are newer ways of doing things. The tech has opened up so many diverse platforms for us to work and work in really the futuristic sense of work. So it has heightened all in all the general sort of consciousness and elevated the importance of perhaps the household drudgery work that we used to think of. It's heightened the feeling of social connect that we all crave for, family well-being. They are all being now talked about and being perhaps prioritized, which otherwise were possibly being sacrificed at the altar of career success and job, etc. So all of these are now potent conversations. I think we can all agree that I think hybrid working is here to stay. It's not something of a fad. And the question is, how can we make this effective for the people at the center of everything that we do, and without really an adverse impact on the business? That's really the conversation. And I can understand in India, the IND predominantly points to inclusion of women in the workplace. And I think rightfully so, because we are still at the nascent stage of this evolution, and it seems extremely unfound that 50% of the human population should be disadvantaged in any sense. However, I think with millennials and soon the Gen Z becoming the dominant group in our workplace, organizations that don't adapt to this changing expectation will risk some sort of redundancy, right? So I think inclusive policies, gender sensitization, celebrating Pride Month, International Women's Day, everything that we are doing, while all of this is keeping us on the right course, I think the real measure will be walking the talk, which means tangible actions and outcomes, and something that can benefit everyone. We have to show that it's benefiting. And like Apoorva said, anything that is measurable, becomes favorable and becomes like a real action-oriented conversation. So I'll give you a few examples from KPMG. Like I've always spoken of how the firm's leadership is already going, immersive intervention, etc., on reverse mentorship, etc. But even on pan-organizational levels, we have launched, for example, a very simple and a well-crafted break the bias campaign, right? So this campaign has basically sort of created an awareness among our people, and it's equipped them to recognize some deep-seated biases, as Vijay said, that we all come with to our workplace. But what it does is it gives them the tools to effectively address some of these biases. So with examples, with practical examples from the workplace. So for example, there are plum jobs and engagements that are coming through for us from clients. Who does get manned on these jobs? Who are the people specifically who are the first priority? Are we in some ways not talking to women because we want to protect them in some ways, right? Because somebody is pregnant or because someone is got recently married, are we not even opening that possibility with these women? So those are some of the examples that we are now showing through practical examples, what biases can mean in terms of disadvantage, which in our minds, we possibly would have thought as, protecting the other gender. Also, I think our near-term plan is to create awareness as to why we need to sort of give and open conversations with respect to differently abled or retirees or veterans or people from various religions, cultures, etc., coming to our workplace, succeeding at business, and which is no longer about social service, and that how all of this is required to basically be successful in continuing to be the leaders in our business, in every business that we choose. And I think I do want to spend like a second on the most marginalized group, which is the LGBTQI community. I think there's a need in shifting our thinking, which is, we want to focus on the value that they bring on the table instead of, their gender or sexuality. The goal, I think, in front of us is to see and to basically acknowledge that it is not they who need us, but perhaps we need them more, because we haven't really seen the potential of this community. There is conversations happening now, and I'm glad for that, but a lot needs to be done. And I believe that, I&D is one single lever that will make us better in terms of all aspects of our business. It will get us not just better talent, it actually is a business imperative. It will bring us better margins, perhaps better profitability. So there is every sort of merit in looking at all sorts of things that we can do at organizational levels to bring that parity.
Perfectly stated, Maneesha. So we're having a lot of questions. I don't know how I'm going to ask everything, but a rapid fire question in the next 15 minutes for us. There is a question from Revati. Great insights shared by Mr. Vijay. Thank you. What are the challenges faced in achieving 50% women in recruitment? And what are the measures taken to ensure that you meet 50% target? The straight question to you.
It's a steep target, I'll tell you that. I think, why stop at 50, right? But the point is not about percentages here. It's not about, it's about providing equitable opportunities to all types of people, irrespective of their gender, background, whatnot, right? I think the most important aspect to focus on, at least in India, is the feeder pool. The number of people that are coming out, and the number of women that are getting the opportunity to study, graduate, not only as a degree, but the skills that you pick up, which is an employable skill. If we have to get into the organized sector, I think it's important that we pick up the right kind of skills, and that is the real challenge, really. And I think we have to address that as a community, as a society, as a country, and each one of us has a responsibility to do that, including the person who's asked the question, to make sure that we educate every girl child, or have them pick up a skill that can then provide them the opportunity. Now, remember, the opportunity is not just working in a factory floor or a software company. It could even be, being an artist. It could be, any form of profession that somebody likes to work in, right? But the most important thing is the mindset, where we say that, listen, everybody has the equal opportunity to succeed in what they want to do. That is the first. Second thing, of course, as people, running companies and organizations, all of us as leaders, we have to, like I said, it's a very deliberate effort. At the entry level, we try to make sure at Verizon that we get 50% of our workforce at the entry level as women, and we try to stick to that very, very consciously. Now, further beyond that, there's a lot of things that comes into play, and we try our best. Like I said, one of the things that we are consciously doing is to make sure that the slate for any role that we open up, when I'm hiring a position, we expect 50% of those positions, the candidates for the profiles are women, to make sure that they get equitable opportunity. Now, what happens after that is, of course, based on their capabilities, skill, and what they bring to the table and the fitment to the role, but we are making those efforts very consciously. The other thing that we are doing in Verizon is to fill the gap in the leadership layer, which is where we see a big challenge, whether it is hiring from the market or even otherwise, is as women grow in roles, because of variety of life cycle changes and variety of other things that come their way, they start, we start seeing that the number of people that move up the ladder actually shrinks. Now, there we have very specific targeted programs in Verizon. We have the, like I said, the Women of the World, the Women Tech Leadership Program. We have the new Leader Academy, where a majority of these people are actually women. So what is very heartening to see is the number of women who sign up for these roles, which used to be less. Over the years, it started to increase. So we now see women actually being aspirational to take the leadership role. So our job as leaders or organizations is not to provide them that opportunity to exhibit that skill. And that we are trying to do very consciously. Now, we also, apart from that, we run a variety of programs, not just for women. We have a tuition assistantship program where we roll out $8,000 every year to any individual. And we actually are very happy to see that a lot of women subscribe to that, to upskill themselves, to bring themselves up to scale, whether it is a master's degree or an MBA or whatever that they pick up. So we have a lot of programs running as an organization. Our hope is that all these foundational steps that we are putting together over a period of time will come to a place where we will have a lot more women in our workforce. And like I said, why just stop at 50? It is just a number. We don't mind, it is more than that or even closer to that. So, that's what it is. So lot of conscious efforts going into that space, and hopefully we will get there soon, but it has to start with the feeder pool. Each one of us who's listening, watching or not is responsible to make sure that we actually build that for this country.
Excellent. I'm sure whoever is asked, so we'll be very happy with your answer. The next question is, hybrid mode is difficult for nuclear family, especially where the child is young, between 1 month to 6 years. As one have to move back to the work city, what is your take on it, provided the in-house creche facilities have limited seats? Who would like to take this question?
I can just give you a very one-line answer to this. If in our company at least, if you need to take some more time to come back to the base location, we allow you to do that. And like I said, we have a very robust gradual return to work policy. And on an exception basis, if somebody needs some more time, we provide that. And as long as you're able to work from home and be productive and you need the time and space, you can take it. But what we are also seeing is a lot of women actually with new kids are coming to office because they just want to be in the office. They want to focus on the work for the 6 to 8 hours that they're able to do it, which is also very heartening to see. But the flexibility is there. As an individual, you have to take a call on what works best for you and make sure that you have this conversation with whoever it is that you're working with and educate them and tell them clearly that this is what I need and this is the space I need. But trust me, I will deliver what is required out of me. And it's at the end of the day, it's a two-way street, and you make it happen for yourself.
Anybody else would like to? Yeah.
Another thing that I think I agree with Vijay, I think we're also doing that at JS, which is a conversation and a choice and flexibility people are getting. We're also providing some enablement to support system. For example, we've got some tie-ups with the agencies and nannies, so that they're not only creches, but also actually support that they can provide, especially in the beginning. And then they can continue with as they would like. We're also providing them relocation assistance in terms of, finding a place which is closer to a school or something like that. So we're actually going very personalized and customized in our approach when we're hearing on as well as conversations and people have reached out to us or we've reached out to them proactively.
Excellent. So we are running out of time, but there are so many questions. I'm feeling very bad that I'm not able to, go through all. Yes, Maneesha, please go ahead.
Thank you. I just want to, apart from the flexibility that the organizations today are offering, especially, and we all are, 6 months maternity leave, 10, 15 days paternity leave, nannies, creches, all of that is happening. I do want to take like 2 minutes of everybody's time to say, as women, we have to have the will and the ownership to take our careers forward. We have to lean in, as Sheryl Sandberg says, and we have to really make sure that, the difficult periods in our life cycles, for example, the motherhood, the early years in your childcare, etc. If we make up our minds that we will of course not compromise on family care, but we will also not compromise on our personal aspirations. I think we should find a way where we can create an ecosystem, I would say, a helping system around us, a network of people, nannies, etc. Obviously, invest possibly more from our salaries than we ever did. But if we were able to go over this hump, the difficult humps, and we all have. I've been in my career. I've worked for over 25 years, and I've gone through. I have a boy who's 19. We've all gone through that. And believe me, when you go over that hump, the coming back to the work is sweeter. The success that you experience is sweeter. So I think take that ownership, and of course, take all the help and the flexibility that is being offered. But it's important to, stand up for your aspirations.
I just want to add to what Maneesha said. Just one point. I have actually worked under women the longest in my career, close to 18, 19 years under women leaders, and all of them were working mothers. I can tell you, this is, what Maneesha said is bang on. Take charge of the career, drive it. And, I'm telling you, they've been some of the best bosses I've had.
And that's why the triangle for me, Maneesha, becomes important. The first is self-empowerment, but the ecosystem socially and at work, how do you bring all of that together for women to be successful?
And also, I think acknowledgement to say, you will never please everyone.
Yeah.
Just get on.
That's true for everyone.
Absolutely. So thank you so much, everybody. And I'm now, the time is out now. So we'll have to, it's been a fabulous, interaction with all of you. So looking forward to interacting. And I'm sure the audience have had a brilliant time and they've taken a lot of notes about the entire thing and really, really appreciate it. And I would like to give the session over to Anumita. Thank you, everybody. Thanks all the panelists.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, dear panelists. It was one great session, and I think we really cracked hacking the hybrid. This session was sponsored by KPMG in India, and also acknowledging our other associate sponsors, Ford Motor Private Limited, Emphasis, and USB. I now request our delegates to go back to the agenda tab and click on the join session button to attend the next session on role model talks.